Hey, what's happening, everybody? Welcome back yet to another video. Today I want to talk about a couple of steps in credit repair. These are some essential steps that we sometimes forget to do, and it actually may turn into something that becomes an obstacle if we're trying to fix our personal credit. These are very baseline steps that I wanted to share with you guys. I think that most of you guys, if you've been through my channel, if you've been watching my videos, have already come across these steps and have already seen them. So hopefully this gives you some clarity around that, hopefully, right? So let's go ahead and start you off with what it is. Now, the first thing is, like, when you're fixing your personal credit, obviously there's a campaign that you follow. That campaign has many different moving pieces into it. The first of many pieces is obviously you send documentation. That letter goes out to the credit bureaus. Then the credit bureaus obtains them, and from that angle, what they do is they either respond in a positive way, saying, hey, look, we got your investigation results. Here's the information that you requested. Here's the stuff that we removed. Not all the times will it be positive, though. Sometimes it's going to say, hey, I've verified these items belong to you. Here's the situation. And if you have any other questions, please let us know. So during that campaign process, what exactly should you be doing, right? So a lot of times what happens is, I think I want to include this piece right here at the beginning because it's going to be like a systematic step, right? So a lot of the times we do credit repair and we actually forget a very baseline step. And that step is when the credit bureaus receive your documents. And this only happens if you actually send certified mail. And if you've been thinking about it, like for $4 to $5, just having a return receipt is probably worth your while, right? And if you want to take it up to a higher level, you can request a signature on that document, but it's definitely worth your while. You definitely have to think about that, right? I strongly encourage you guys to think about that. So if you're going about, let's say, fixing your credit, send certified mail, the very first step that you should simultaneously execute is a phone call. And this only when the credit bureaus receive your documents, but you have to wait it a while, right? So let's assume that they receive your documents, you got a confirmation of that return receipt. You wait at least 24 to 48 hours. From that perspective, you give a phone call. And there's a couple of things you got to do with that phone call. And I'm pretty sure I reiterated this through my older videos, and this is just a refresher on some of the initial and most powerful steps that you can execute here that will help your campaign and the success results that you can obtain. So what you guys need to do is you need to phone, the credit bureaus. You got to ask them 3 questions. The first question should be, hey, have you received any documents from me? And if they say no, then you got to tell them, well, I had sent certified mail and there's a return receipt. What exactly is that? Right? And let them clarify. And if they say, yes, we have, then all is well. Okay. The second question you got to ask is, will you be contacting the creditors, or is that something I should be doing? There's a reason why we're doing this. There's actually a gamification process in this. And the reason why, it's because all the agents that are on the other phone, they have to write comments down. They have to write notes down in their systems as per every single communication that comes through that call center, right? During that time, they have a duty to notify you of certain things. There's compliant protocols, and they have to be pretty much on the ball when it comes to disclosing information to you. So when you tell them, hey, look, I don't understand what's going on. Now, you guys received documentation. Are you going to contact the creditors? You get a confirmation from them and their team that, yeah, no, you don't have to do that. We, the credit bureaus, are going to reach out to the creditors. And this is important because this is the initial step that's required for them to clarify their position as to why they're doing that, right? So they usually and typically will, obviously say, hey, look, we are going to contact the creditors, don't worry. And the final and third question that you should definitely ask is, how long can I expect my results in? This is a step that's required because you want to get a confirmation of a timeline, right? Like, for example, a lot of credit bureaus will say, well, we can't give you that exact estimate and stuff like that. And if that be the case and they do give you a very generic answer, be like, well, within guidelines, usually the way you guys are governed, what's a reasonable expectation, right? Was it 45, 60? What exactly is it? And if they say 60, be like, well, isn't that kind of like the breach of the Fair Credit Reporting Act, right? So you can catch them. But the goal is ask them that question anyways. And typically they'll say, well, we'll get back to you within 30, 45 days, and that's all. And that's okay, that's reasonable, right? But get them to say it to you. So that's the first step that you should be doing once you send out your first campaign. Now, I'm assuming you got certified mail. You know this, the return receipt, that's the first trigger. 24 to 48 hours, pick up the phone, call the bureaus, ask them the 3 questions. Hey, have you received documents from me? Are you going to contact the creditors for me? and or debt collectors, or that whoever the creditors are in that case, and how long should I expect results in by? When will you finish your investigation? When will I receive packages from you? And that's pretty much it. Now, the objective of all this is a preliminary step to get a confirmation, like I said, on the phone, as that's the credit bureau's duty to do so, and you're essentially asking them to kind of pull through with that, right? So that's that. Next up, we're going to discuss the second step. Now, this is assuming that this step comes in from unsatisfactory results, right? Like the credit bureaus really haven't done much. They haven't given you the outcomes that you're looking for. And they're just simply saying, hey, look, we know this items belong to you, and unfortunately, there's nothing we can do about that. These items do belong to you, and therefore, this is what it is. In those instances, you have to basically call the credit bureaus, and this is another phone call that you're going to have once you have the actual documentation, and a confirmation that the bureaus are not willing to budge, and then the items will probably stay on your credit reports. During that instance, what you have to do is you got to give them a ring, give them a phone call. In that call, you're going to ask a series of things. Well, you're going to state a series of things, more like it, not necessarily ask. And this time, what you're going to do is you're going to say, hey, look, these items that you're saying has been verified and so on and so forth, that there's an investigation. Please note that I am not disputing this, so remove any comments stating otherwise. And typically, this is important because on the credit reports themselves, there's a statement. And that statement has to say disputed by the consumer. Most of the times, they don't do that. But that's good for you because that automatically, during that phone call, when you say, hey, I'm not disputing this, remove any comments otherwise stating, automatically shows that they've been non-compliant, right? But it's a trigger mechanism. And therefore, if they add it there, right, or if there's nothing to remove and they say, okay, that's gone, that means it was never there in the first place. But if they add it there, that means that obviously this is not supposed to be the case because you're not asking them to add that, right? So this automatically triggers an investigation internally, just to give you guys a heads up, right? But the goal of that call is to say, hey, look, I am not disputing this information. Anything stating otherwise is untrue. Please remove these comments. Let's say they left those comments. What this does indirectly, and that is the sole purpose of the call, right? And then you just hang up the phone and say, thank you so much for helping me. That's all I had for you guys today. Thank you. The sole purpose of that conversation is to reset the clock. The resetting of the clock is a strategy we have to deploy on a very consecutive basis when you're dealing with the credit bureaus, because they have a tendency of warehousing an initial investigation, and every single time there's a dispute that kind of goes around that, they use this baseline investigation to do all the follow-up stuff. So it's terrible. It's not supposed to be the case, but that is what they do. So if they have previous comments that is warehoused in the Oscar database and so on and so forth, that is the exact first thing they'll go for. And therefore, you might not even have a legitimate investigation going forward simply because there's literally no substance or weight in that capacity, right? This is very, very important for you to understand. So you need to do that. You need to phone the credit bureaus and you got to let them know that, hey, I don't have any disputes going on. Remove all the comments that are saying or stating otherwise. And that's all you got to do. From that angle, then only can you move on to your campaign, right? So if the results are not satisfactory, that's the first step, obviously. And then from that perspective, after saying you remove all the comments and they confirmed it, so then you move on to your next campaign. Restructure documentation, find any issues, errors, the way I taught you guys how to do, common logic and common sense approach of personal credit. And of course, the course has a lot more information. You guys would know that. The Ultimate Personal Credit Mastery, it's actually in the description of this video if you guys are interested. Amazing price point, a lot of benefit, right? But moving on to the third and final step, I would say that we kind of forget. Because I know that we talked about the first one, which is, hey, call the bureaus and ask those 3 questions. And if you guys remember specifically what those questions are, the first one is, hey, have you received the documents or package from me? Number 2 is, are you going to contact the creditors? And number 3 is, how long will it take? Assuming the results are not satisfactory, you call the bureaus and simply state that you're not disputing the same accounts that were listed, and therefore just remove all the comments and just hang up the phone. You just move on to your campaign, right? The third and final piece of this all is you got to journal the entries of every single communication with your credit bureaus that you have or creditors. Journaling communication simply means this day I discussed with the credit bureaus, specifically this topic. And by the way, when you're calling the credit bureaus, you should have the agent's name and the ID at bare minimum, because you're entitled to ask those information. And you're entitled to receive the information when asked. So, you got to journal the entries, and that's going to be an evidence book that is on a personal level that you can present in court in the future, because that clearly stipulates everything that you are doing. And that should be from day one. And journal entry is required. It's a auditing document that can be leveraged because they can confirm the timelines with the credit bureaus, and because you're organized. Right? Organizational system flow is what you're looking for, right? OSF, organizational system flow. So if you journal your entries, what happens now, you have like an exact timeline, right? And when you're calling the creditors again, or the credit bureaus, be like, look, on this date, at this specific time, I spoke to this person with this agent number. What's going on, right? So journal your entries. That's the third and final piece of the advice I have for you guys when you're trying to fix your personal credit, because journaling your entry puts you in a perspective where you're, like I said, you're organized, right? Like your organizational system flow is there. It's a very threatening situation for a lot of credit bureaus because they wouldn't think that to the extent where you take them to court. And I think you need to think that way, right? And it's not that you will have to sue them. It's just you have to be meticulously organized, and that's in the flow, because that's necessary if you're going to succeed, right? So that's my third piece of the advice when it comes to credit repair campaigns. And as you're doing all these things simultaneously, yeah, the hard work is going through the documentation, typing it up, finding the errors, auditing it properly, putting that material evidence together, and then shooting it over to the bureaus. But don't forget the important pieces that go along with it. Like I said, these phone conversations are very powerful. Resetting the clock is very powerful. Journaling your entries is very powerful. These three components are extremely crucial to successful credit repair campaigns. Now, you might have success along the way without doing any of this. But isn't it even better if you solidify your campaigns and you add more weight and substance to it? Because that means that you're doing everything in your power to make sure that you're going to be successful no matter what in your credit repair efforts, right? And that's the sole purpose of doing all these three steps, because that takes you to the next level when it comes to credit repair. And it's going to help you a lot because these are the critical components of success in credit repair, right? So I just wanted to share the methodology with you guys because I think it's extremely crucial that we think about these strategies, these three movements and these three key components to simultaneously execute them through that 30-day process of credit repair. And if I may, like one more time, and just to reemphasize, journal your entries. It's extremely important. Noting things down and having the habit of doing so, specifically when it comes to your personal credit, this thing that is actually holding you back from future financial opportunity, it's so important. And I don't think it should be ignored, right? So I just wanted to shoot this quick video out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to destroy that thumbs up button. Share the video with those who need to hear this, who are undergoing credit repair themselves. And I think it's a critical key step to creating success in your credit repair campaigns. And with that said, this is definitely your guide and mentor, Ali Tarafdar. I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye for now.